Hi guys, so I was inspired to make a tutu after watching, I think her username is SecretLifeOfABioNerd. She did a video on like how to wear a tutu, and I really liked her skirt. Now I wouldn't really call it a tutu, I'd more call it a kind of a tiered ruffle skirt, something like that, because hers doesn't just poof out, it's got many layers, and it doesn't look like it's made from tulle, it's made from bobinette. But Secret Life of a Bio-Nerd, if you are watching this, correct me. Tell me what your skirt is made from. I'm assuming it's made from bobinette, just because it did kind of drape and sway very nicely, whereas tulle is just kind of puffy. So after watching her video, I figured, you know, hers is going to be a bit too time-consuming to make, and I already have regular tulle, so I don't really want to make, you know, one like that. So I decided I'd make a tutu like Carrie Bradshaw in Sex and the City, which is basically just 2 layers of tulle. Now, in retrospect, I should have gathered it less and used more layers. I guess I always forget how sheer tulle is, so I never use enough. So I've used 2 layers on each of the tiers. For a Carrie Bradshaw one, I'd probably use 6 to 10 layers of tulle on each tier, and I probably wouldn't gather it as much, not so many ruffles. So anyway, if you like this skirt, please keep watching, because this is going to be a tutorial on how to make it. For this project, you will need an extra large men's wife beater or a t-shirt. Just make sure it's extra long. I was going to use a regular t-shirt, but I couldn't find ones that were long enough, so I went with a wife beater. You'll also need some tulle. Now I've just got a regular ordinary bolt of tulle. I saw at Michael's though you can get it pre-cut in like 6-inch strips. It's used for like decorating at weddings. That would work really well because tulle is very difficult to work with, and it would kind of be nice to have it pre-cut, but I already had this. You'll also need some elastic. Now what elastic you choose is completely up to you. I've chosen 1-inch waistband elastic. I like waistband elastic because it doesn't curl when it stretches. You'll need thread. You'll need pins. Now pins are kind of important just because tulle is so difficult to work with, so make sure you have some. Obviously you'll need scissors, you'll also need a ruler, I don't know where mine is, and then you can use either a sewing machine, but this is simple enough that you could sew it by hand. The first step is to cut the top off of the wife beater right where the armholes are. So this is going to be the foundation of our skirt. So I don't know if you can see it, but I've just drawn a little line where I want the first ruffle to be sewn on, and then I'm going to stretch this as much as I can. Whenever you're working with knits, you always want to sew with it stretched out, because obviously when you put it on, it's going to stretch and you don't want the threads to break. So I'm just going to stretch it out a bit, and then I'm going to sew the waistband in. Where's my elastic? I'm just going to take the elastic, roll it over, and then sew it in with a zigzag stitch. So I'm just sewing a channel in for the waistband. I'm not actually sewing anything to the elastic, I'm just sewing around it, if that makes sense, because I want to be able to adjust it later. So I've got the foot at the edge of the elastic, and I'm sewing using a zigzag stitch, and I'm stretching out the fabric as much as I can as I sew. Always when you're sewing on knits, if you don't have a serger or a special sewing machine that has a knit setting, sew using a zigzag stitch, and always try and pull the fabric as much as possible while you're sewing. So here's the tulle. If I had to guess, I'd say I have between 6 and 9 meters. I don't really know. It's not that important. So what I'm going to do is it's folded in half. It came folded in half on the bolt. So I'm just going to cut it in half in the middle, and then I'm going to do 2 tiers, and each tier is going to be 2 layers, and then it'll be gathered. So I'm just going to cut this entire thing straight down the middle. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take the tool and I'm going to sew a just a basting seam along the top edge here, and then I'm going to pull that tight, and that's going to make all the gathers.
So what I'm doing here, I've just pulled the loose thread from the end of the seam, and I'm just tightening it along. You only need to pull one of the threads. If you pull both of the threads from the machine, like the top and the bottom thread, then it'll just tighten. You just choose one or the other and then keep pulling on that one. And then I'm just going to kind of adjust it so that all the gathers are even. And then I'm going to pin it along that line that I had drawn in earlier.
Once everything's been pinned on, you're then going to top stitch it using a zigzag stitch. Take the pins out as you go so that the needle doesn't hit them and break.
Once the first layer of tulle has been sewn on, you just do everything again for the second layer.
So I've just been sewing the second layer of the tulle along the same seam that I had initially made for the waistband, and I had taken the elastic out and cut it to the width I want for my waist, and at this point I'm about 90% done sewing the tulle on, but I've still got an opening to put the elastic in, so right now I'm going to just thread the elastic into the waistband. So I've just threaded the elastic through and sewn it together so that it makes like a waistband. And so now the last step will just be to close up this hole and then tack on the rest of the tulle. So I've just got some pinning to do and then about 8 inches of sewing left, so I think I'm on the home stretch. Ta-da! I'm actually really impressed with how this turned out. I had, looked at it halfway through and it looked way too puffy, like something a 6-year-old would wear. But, it actually turned out semi-wearable. Granted, I will never wear this beyond this room, but it's cute, definitely. I think the 2 tiers definitely make it a bit more grown up, if I could say that. It's not quite the Carrie Bradshaw tutu I was aiming for. For that, you'd need to use more layers of tulle and gather it less. It would also probably help if you were skinny. I have wide hips, so it kind of pushes the tulle out even further. So yeah, this is a look that I think could only really be pulled off by Sarah Jessica Parker or maybe a skinny Asian girl. But definitely, I'm really liking this. I feel like, I don't know, a ballerina or Little Bo Peep or even a German barmaid. I think this wide belt really makes the outfit. As for the waistband, it's just kind of meh. It's just the elastic, so again, it's a tutu I made in like 2 hours, so what are you expecting? Anyway, if you think I've forgotten anything, if you're unclear on anything, please let me know. I sew a lot, but I don't really teach people how to sew, so I don't know if I've left out important details, but I think I covered everything. So if anything's unclear, please just ask me. And if you'd like me to do another tutorial, go ahead and request it if you have any suggestions. Prom season's coming, so I know I want to make a couple dresses for that. just for the fun of it. I know I'm an adult. I don't go to prom. But yeah, please comment, rate, subscribe.